Hey guys, I am Gypsy Moon. I'm here with my friend Nicole Lynn. She is a soul writer. My soul sister, absolutely love her. She is the creator of the Mushroom Medicine Oracle deck at Facilitating Love on Earth. She's going to go into all of her details about her Mushroom Oracle deck, which is absolutely gorgeous. She does readings a lot on Instagram, so she'll go more into that. So today we just want to get to know you a little bit better, to everybody out there who doesn't already know you. And just kind of discuss how your journey, I guess, has led you on this path. So, do you find inspiration from a particular spiritual traveler or philosopher or tradition? Or you know what, just introduce yourself and then we'll go from there.
Well, you introduced me so well. Thank you, Gypsy. It's nice to be here. Yeah, so my name is Nicole Lynn, and I don't kind of go by a last name a lot of times in the public eye, and that's just for my own reason. I use my middle name as my last name. Um, and I've been working for myself pretty much since 2009. And originally, in meditation, my business name was Facilitating Flow in Mind, Body, Relationships, and Life. And Facilitating Flow was kind of for short. And then, and I have my bachelor's and master's in clinical and holistic social work. And my family took our bus. We have a 1967 Flexibel motor coach, and we took a sabbatical for 9 months around the US. And one of the places that we were at was Mount Shasta. And I was meditating on a big boulder, and the first thing that I received was, you are a unique receiver. You are a unique receiver. And it wasn't me personally like Nicole, it was basically humans. Humans are receivers. And so often we go through our life thinking that we have to be givers, and we're always thinking about how to give. And even in that mentality with our society around, you have to earn your keep, like there's so much around purpose and like proving yourself and putting yourself out there in the world and giving onto others. And this was a completely different vibrational imprint that I received. And it had to do with, first and foremost, receive your breath, receive your life, receive the gift of being here, receive you. And then you'll know that life is giving to you all the time. All you can do is receive each moment. And that leads me to the Mushroom Medicine Oracle deck. But before I do that, I also received FLOE. So my business name before that was Facilitating Flow with FLOW. But this was FLOE. And when I heard flow and I saw FLOE, it said, you are facilitating love on earth. So that was in 2005. And so my business name changed ever since then. And some people think my name is Flo, but it's not. And people can find me, through Facilitating Love on Earth or Flo, FLOE, or Nicole Lynn. And but to summarize me, it's just I've been on this beautiful path throughout my whole life, even in childhood, around learning about different cultures and religions and philosophies, and opening my heart to just ceremony and worship and praise and honor. And it's been a very beautiful winding road, but yet there's still always been this fluid current directional path. I'm a highly sensitive soul, very empathic, very intuitive. And so how to just continue to open myself and allow that to be my guide, trusting myself completely. As far as you asking if there's like any one kind of spiritual teacher or a mentor or anything, when I was 19, this is a really beautiful story. I'll try to make it really short because it's fascinating, but I was a young mother, so I became a mother at 16. So I had 2 children, had my own apartment. me and the father of the two children were together for 5 years, and we had separated. We weren't married, but and so I was a young mom, 2 kids, living on my own, and I started to connect with a spiritual teacher named Michael Tamara. And the first way he entered into my life was through these like cassette tapes. And I used to put the kids to bed, and every night put in one of those cassette tapes and lay on the floor in the living room and just go into these past life, sessions, these meditations, just all these different spaces. And fast forward to in my 20s, I was working every morning. I had to drive to the hospital working, and I'd leave at like 4:30 in the morning to be there by, open up to be there for blood draws by 6. And so it'd be pitch dark, and while driving, I always felt, it's a little embarrassing to say, but it's real. I always felt this little man, Asian man, sitting beside me in the passenger seat. And I thought I was making him up. I would just be driving, and I also was connecting with a horse I passed every day, but I didn't know that there was a connection between him and Michael Tamara yet. So I thought he was like a spirit guide. And I told my husband about him. I'm still married to my husband now. And so, for the longest time, years, I worked in this ethereal relationship with who I thought was my spirit guide, this Asian man. And then, and it was a very strong connection. I could commune with him telepathically anytime I needed to. And then, lo and behold, I found out he is a real human that is alive on Earth. And not only that, but he's the same man that made those cassette tapes when I was 19 years old and I used to play. And his name is Michael Tamara. And Michael Tamara just passed away. So it hasn't even been a month yet. And when me and my husband moved to New Hampshire from Michigan in 2019, I received an email from Michael Tamara saying he was coming to Burlington, Vermont, which is not far from me at all. That would have been the first time we could actually meet face to face, flesh to flesh. And yet I've had, since I was 19 years old, this long, very deeply intuitive psychic relationship with him. Mind you, he had a radio show, and you could call in sometimes, and him and his wife, Raphael, could channel messages and share different things. And I had called into that radio station probably like 4 times, I think, total over the course of years. And every time I was able to get through, and they would give me readings. And the first reading Michael ever gave me was, and of course, we've never spoken real, just telepathically. And he validated everything, my whole journey since I was 19 years old, all of our connections, everything. And anyway, it's just been this beautiful thing. So me and my husband went for the weekend and got to spend the whole weekend with him and his wife. We got to have dinners together. We got to have really deep connection, as well as long day workshops together. And then, of course, he had just passed away now. So I would probably have to just really emphasize that if anyone's curious about Michael Tamara and his teachings, he has a beautiful book, You Are the Answer, and he has tons of YouTube videos because he's an elder. He's been in the field for a really long time. He's been out there for a long time. And yeah, he was definitely my starting point in a lot of this, and still here to this day. So
I don't know. I had saw that you had posted, but I didn't. Now I know the story behind it, and
that's a short version. I was like trying to be fast, but
so so do you feel like it has evolved over time from that, or have you?
Most definitely it evolves. Yeah, so I often say, because I went through a 1.5 years, what I call death phase, in 2019, that lasted until the autumn of 2020. And so even when like the pandemic hit, like I was in it, for a good year, my own journey. So I couldn't even really connect with what was going on in the world and all the stories and trying to process that, because I was so in my shamanic journey with myself. But I often tell people that for 42 years of my life, I was working healing victim consciousness. And so, no matter what I was certified in, no matter what my own healing practices were and what I resonated with in that time, I was still healing victim consciousness. And then I went through a 1.5 year death phase. And so now for the last 2.5, 3 years, there has been this really beautiful space within me of understanding that there's nothing that has to be forgiven. There's nothing that has to be made up for. We are precious and pure and divine instruments of peace and love. And we are made from love. We are love. We return to love. And a lot of times you hear those teachings and they sound really beautiful and we want to believe them, but in ourselves, somatically, with all of our conditioning and everything, we don't embody it. It's not like a deep internal and eternal state of beingness. It's almost like we try to believe it. Mm-hmm. And so there's been this like rebirth of myself of really understanding like this life that I get to enjoy as Nicole is for play and beauty and gratitude, and to just share what brings me joy, share my pain, share my life, and like savor it. Like to me, it's very embodied and somatic. It's like, smelling, tasting, seeing, hearing, touching, like feeling everything, and just fully giving myself back to life that is birthing me in every moment, that has me, that will always have me, and I get to enjoy it. I remember asking Michael Tamara, telepathically, like I felt like I was like this world was a dream, and what happens when you know you're dreaming? Now what, kind of a thing. And I just felt him say, enjoy the dream. Like we can make things so hard.
Yes.
Sometimes it's like, enjoy. It's an amazing dream. You get to have all these amazing experiences. But yes, most definitely, it's a journey that there's no finish line. It's going to continuously evolve and unfold and unravel, and forgetting and remembering and all of it. And that's just part of the magic.
And I think one of the things that I have so enjoyed ever since you and I have connected is just in your YouTube videos that you share and in your writing, you can just always, and I don't even want to cry. You just always radiate love and compassion, and you can just feel it pouring out of you. And I have said before, when you do your mushroom oracle readings, I love how you take the time you even pause the video to just sit there and you breathe and take it all in. And I don't think I've ever, I'm such a, half the time I feel like, and so when I take the time to just really sit and watch your videos, I even watched one the other day where you had the rattle and the fire, and it just is very calming, and you can't help but feel calm and peace whenever I'm in your presence or I'm watching something that you've posted or listening to your writings. It is always such from a very beautiful and loving place. So I want to say thank you, because I know that I feel that, and very, very grateful. I want to show gratitude that I have been able to share space with you so much. So I know, and which I find very interesting that you have an MSW background. So to me, it's always shown your heart, how you've always wanted to help other people. And now you're doing that in your spirituality, just with everything that you do. So,
yeah, I think a lot of it is our journey return back to love. And it's funny, I've been speaking with a lot of clients, so I do what I call soul sessions, and I branched away from traditional psychotherapy in 2013, and Michael Tomorrow was another person that once I made that decision and commitment, it took about 5 years for me to like really trust myself, because I invested a lot of time and money in getting my degrees and, um, working in the field, and a part of me loved it, but I just kept seeing these roadblocks and the way that a lot of people view treatment and the diagnoses and the requirements with billing insurance and just all these loopholes. In doing so, it was creating this big blockage with true help and facilitating. And I was still doing intuitive work even when I was in the traditional field, but there was still a lot more things to govern. And so, yeah, I just remember once I made the decision within myself, Michael Tamara on one of the radio shows said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And I laughed and told him I had just branched away. He said, "I need to validate you. That's exactly what you were supposed to do." So those kind of conversations. But yeah, it's like so often like right now with clients, there's just been this theme around self-love, and I can feel how humans, they think they know what that means, and they start imagining like I have to like myself all the time. I have to always feel good. I can never be down on myself. And that feels like too hard of a place to go. And I can't help but to feel that's really not love. Like the people that we love the most, we at times can't stand them. We don't like them. We don't want to be in the same room of them. We don't even want them near us. Like we don't agree with all the different things in our, life, and we don't always make the same decisions. We're not the same people, but they're like our people that we love the most. And sometimes we even fight with them the most, right? And so it's almost like returning that back to ourselves to realize love and liking someone are not always the same.
Yes.
And like to soften and go back to that unconditional place of love that says, I love you, but so help me God, I can't stand you right now. Like we are not going to see each other, right? Like I need a break. And like holding that to ourselves where we understand like it's not about agreeing all the time, liking every quality, loving your physical appearance every day, never having a bad mood, never having a bad day, never feeling down and out. It's like that's a part of love.
I
That's the part of
love
the
that. I've never even thought of that. I love
yeah. And
that.
so often I feel like that runs in my work and this theme. And even those 42 years of victim consciousness, like a really healing it within myself, within my ancestry, within the human collective. And and self-love was always in that, but it was always coming still from the well that was empty, or the well that had the wounding. You're trying to love yourself. You're trying. That word trying. When you're trying, usually you're missing a few steps, right? And again,
Yeah.
I usually tell people like if someone's trying to quit smoking, they're probably still sometimes smoking. Because once they completely stop, they're not trying to quit anymore. They've quit.
Yes.
And so like, Yoda says like do or be, or don't, but don't try. And
Yeah.
and so that if we're striving for something and trying all the time, it's like we're not fully there. We're not fully in that space. And for me, the self-love journey of knowing the purity of my being, knowing what I've been birthed from, and that I am, and what's contained within me, it has nothing to do with these human conditions that we overanalyze, and we put ourselves to such perfection standards, or other people, and there's so many expectations and hurts and dogmas and beliefs around everything. And it's like that's all conditioning. Like if we can just return to something way more simple, way more pure, that had nothing to do with you, right? When you were born, like it has nothing to do with, oh, are you worthy? Well, you might have to prove yourself. Are you a good person? It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just this essence of, here you are, a
Mm.
manifestation of purity. And yeah, so I feel like that comes off in how I hold space for others too. And of course, how I hold space for myself. I've been doing a year-long deep dive with another practitioner, and we are journeying for a whole year with a group of participants. And the first 3 months has been inner child, and next month we start maiden. And so I'm surrounded by all my pictures of me as in different ages of, even on my altar, like my inner child is everywhere because I've been deeply working with my inner children again. And it's funny when people hear about inner child work, a lot of times they still are thinking about what needs to be healed. And that's a part of it. But usually they go to places of pain and stuff too. And there is a point that comes in people's lives where you don't have to heal any more pain anymore. It's like you become the fertile soil and the environment and the landscape where your inner child can flourish and be safe. And now she's still growing. So it's not like one and done and now that's over. It's a continuous journey, right? So our inner children, maiden, mother, crone, these are all archetypes that live within us all the time. And they're going to live with us until we die. So it's this beautiful space of like, I am the landscape that allows for my inner child to be loved and nurtured and have freedom and play and roam and be curious and have adventures and have stability and have everything. And now we don't have to project that blame onto what our parents did or didn't do, or society or schools or religion or anything else. We can be like, I've created the fertile soil within me and all around me. It's my life.
Right. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So we've talked about the deck. So tell me how tell us how that came into play. Because it is an absolute beautiful deck, and I
As
love
I'm
the
drinking from
messages.
my Amanita cup. Yeah, so I have the deck here. So this is Mushroom Medicine Oracle. And I don't know if you can really see the lighting, but this is the box set. And it says, we welcome you into the Mycelium Network. And then, yeah, it's got a couple pictures of the deck and me and a brief explanation. So the mushroom deck, when we got back from that trip we took in our bus around the US in 2015, got to go back a little bit. So when we came back from that, we were in Michigan, and we lived in this beautiful country home, 100-acre farm, but also had been in the same family for 100 years. And they had asked our family if we would come, and my husband's a builder, and they were saying, like, you could do some renovations and help, and we really want to restore this family lineage in this home. And so we didn't know where we were going to be after the bus trip. We had given everything to Spirit, and just like sold all of our stuff. We had surrendered everything. Matt Kahn is another spiritual teacher who was, I don't know if it was his first or second book or what, but during that time he had a book, Love Whatever Arises. And I just remember that was my mantra. Like, that's what I was practicing, is just no strings attached, complete surrendered, open state of receiving and being in the moment, and just whatever's arising, love that, including whatever's arising inside, right? It can be negative
That
stuff.
gets so hard.
Yeah. But it was such an amazing journey. And then we got back and we went and checked out the farm that we were asked to be at. And it was home instantly. It was like, yes, this is where. And so we're pulling the bus into this long driveway, this long, country road, and just this beautiful space. And I find out that they have an airport, a private airport in the back. So you walk, there's 100 acres, and it's all wooded and wildflower fields. And they have this mowed path that you can walk through the wildflowers in the forest, and it weaves and it will take you to the airport. And I call it the Heart's Path because it was just vibrant green grass from mowing it. And it was just surrounded with taller than you, wildflowers all around, fairy villages and just forests and streams. And so I started walking that every single day. And I returned back to working for a nonprofit, a women's center, where I worked before my bus trip, and they had asked me to come back. So I was still doing counseling there. And so to help me release my day and what was going on with clients, also helped me to release what was going on with my teenage kids or my young adult kids and just stresses. my marriage, anything, friendships, whatever. Even for me to let go of my own attachment to my thoughts and my stories and, my emotions and all that, I would just go and walk this heart path. And I started hearing this voice inside of me that said, it doesn't matter if you want to. Like, oh, I'm tired. I just want to relax after I get home from work. Or, oh, I got it. And it was just this energy of like, we're not asking you if you want to. It's, we're not, this isn't up for negotiation. Like, get your butt out there and walk. And there was no expectation about like how long I would walk or where even I would end up or any of that. It was just throw yourself out there and start moving and see what will come. Some days maybe you'll come back after 20 minutes. Other days I was out walking for 3 to 4 to 5 hours. And it became this really beautiful way to get out of my story, out of my mind, out of even stories, victim consciousness around like, woe is me, or I'm the one doing everything, or, whatever that is. And like, just throw me out there and walk through all that stuff. And so all seasons, we have 4 seasons in Michigan. So it didn't matter if it was hailing and raining and freezing and ice storms, and it doesn't matter. And somehow, because I did this every day, I must have just formed this relationship with spirit that like this trust in relationship, because that's just what I did. And again, it didn't matter if I wanted to. And through that repetition, I started to feel how it was helping me in my body, helping me to get in my body and be in my body, but also move through emotions and beliefs and structures. And I found that there was points that I would get to in my walk where everything was silent. And I would catch it and be like, oh, it's so different from when I began the walk. When I was beginning the walk, I had Nicole was here, all my ambitions, all my frustrations, all my everything, me, the egoic me. And there would be a point when in the walk, it would be like just complete silence everywhere, internally, externally, like just this present, deep rooted silence that is you can taste and touch and feel. It's so rich. And there's sounds even. So there's still birds, there's still sounds. And yet it's this deep, thick presence of silence. And in that space, more started to open up. And I started to, in that silence, I slowly started to be drawn to certain things energetically, like a pull towards something. And every once in a while, I would receive like a message, like, here's something. So I'd start bringing my notebook and I would just write little notes. And again, it was just my diary. It's not like I wasn't doing this to teach people. I wasn't doing this for show. It was just me and what I had to do for my own sanity, right?
Right.
The mushrooms were the first to come through. And the first message from the mushrooms was nothing. And that's a big word. So I just want everyone who's listening to feel the word nothing, because nothing is nothing. We like to give it a little bit of leeway, right?
Yes.
But the mushrooms was like, nothing is what it seems.
Wow.
So that means not even like half the story, a quarter of your story. Nothing is what it seems. Even those ones that are rooted in spirituality and meditation and whatever, it's like, no, nothing. And then I heard, so nothing is what it seems, but then I also heard, nothing is what it seems. Nothing. Oh, anyway, I just lost it. It might come back. But it was like another layer even to that, like another layer of depth of like, so if nothing is what it seems, nothing is what you believe, something like that. Nothing is what it seems, and nothing is nothing is what you've been taught to believe. That was it.
Yeah.
And I just was like in this space of like nothingness. Then like what the F, right? Like,
yeah.
now what? Like, no, like just like completely washed up, like, okay, nothing. So maybe like how a baby comes into the world where it's just, it has none of that programming yet.
Yeah.
And slowly, another one of my messages very early on, that's in my journal notes from 2015, is from the mushrooms, was, we are your ancestors. We are the closest kin to your family. And the funny story about that, because of course, I've shared a lot of these things with my husband back then, because I'd get really excited and be like, oh my gosh, look at what I'm receiving. Mushrooms. Mushrooms are like our ancestors. They're the closest to our family. Well, maybe it was in 2017 or something, I started to get messages. Somehow I learned about them making a movie called Fantastic Fungi. Have you seen that one? The documentary?
Yeah.
Oh, it's, yeah, I would recommend anyone to look it up. I think it's even on Netflix, or it used to be, but yeah, so I started to get, it wasn't out yet. It was like a indie film in the making, whatever. But they would show little clipses of it. And it was like, yes, like I can't wait, bridging the spirituality with the science and the world of the mycelium and the fungi. And we moved here in 2019. In 2019, we were driving after picking our daughter up from Boston, and we're driving home and we're going through this town, Concord. And I look at the sign, the small, tiny, only play one little movie, movie theater, an old one, really cute. And it said, showing fantastic fungi. It's 2019. And it said the time and the date, and it was the date, and it was like an hour before the time. So I had kind of known about this movie for about a year and a half, I feel like.
Right.
And I just was like, oh, Corey. And there was no question asked or nothing. It's one of those divine moments when everything synchronizes. Like there was no like, oh, we're tired, let's go. There was none of that. It was just the three of us, our daughter, my husband, and I pull over. We go to an Indian restaurant and get some food. And then we go to this little tiny movie theater where there's like three other people other than us. So like six of us sitting there. And we watched that documentary. And one of the first things they say in the documentary is, we are your ancestors, like pretty much the same thing I wrote in 2015 in my diary.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, my journey began, but then I went through my death phase for a year and a half in 2019 to the autumn of 2020. And so it had been since 2015. So it had, been 5 years that I would go walk in any kind of condition in the forest and out in nature. And I carried that even when I moved to New Hampshire. And my phone would be on airplane mode, but sometimes I would bring it to take photographs. And I've actually even used it sometimes in notes to like for a diary and write some. But yeah, so this had been a 5-year journey up to that point, and again through my own healing crisis and stuff. And then in the autumn of 2020, so autumn is a beautiful time for mushrooms. That's like the peak season. So they're everywhere in the forest. And I had felt probably a week before this tinge of life, something that I hadn't felt for such a long time. And I had no hair. My hair had fallen out, so I had a shaved head, bald head. My skin had fallen off. I lost my hearing, my eyesight. I mean, it was a big journey.
Right.
And deeply emotional, and grief like stripping me of everything. And so I felt this tinge of like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just this tinge of like, there's something in me now that wasn't there, like life, beauty, joy. I don't know. I can't really label it. Because death is just gets wiped you of everything. You're just in the void. All of a sudden I felt that. Well, then a week later, out in the forest, I heard, you're ready. I didn't know what that meant. And then I got, you're going to turn these photographs and these musings from your diary entries into an oracle deck to bring healing to other people. And it was like, again, a lightning bolt of divine confirmation, because I had made jokes. I even wrote a little poem that's in the book. I'd made little jokes about, like, why am I doing this? Sometimes I feel like I'm a mushroom reporter. I don't even know why I write these things and I take all these pictures. Like I'll probably never use this. I don't even know why I'm doing it, but I had to. It was just this. I was being pulled to do this.
Mhm.
I didn't know what for. I had no intention of making this. This did not come through Nicole. And um, so after the mushroom medicine oracle deck, it's a rite of passage through transition, grief, transformation, back into connection, integration, and wholeness. And it's my own journey. So from start to finish, it took 2 years after that, once I received the message, to make it into an oracle deck. It took 2 more years to then get it fully done and printed and have it in my hands. So it was a 7-year journey from start to finish. And I just received it in November of 2022. And so it's just had its 1-year anniversary.
Yes. And I find that so I know nothing about mushrooms, but they grow from what I find a little bit, I'm sure you've already thought of it too, but don't they grow from like things that are dead and so you had gone through that period of that dying thing to be able to create that. And I also love that it took a total of 7 years. 7 is that rejuvenation. It takes, they say everything rejuvenates after 7 years. And so you can't tell you can't tell me that it wasn't divine. It wasn't from the divine because everything lined up so perfect.
You couldn't tell me that it wasn't from the divine. And that's why, even like when people talk to me about, marketing, and you should do this and you should do that and do this and do that, and it's exhausting, and then I always come back to the purity, and I still go to the forest every day, as you know. And so, you know, I like, you want to know who birthed this? You want to know who the creator of this is? It's spirit in the forest. It's not like, yeah, I showed up every day through all my stuff. I showed up to the forest every day, no matter what I was going through, for 7 years. And I do soul sessions with people. And so when I heard you're going to make this oracle deck, I took it very seriously. I got very excited, but then I took it seriously. And when I was told the mushrooms that were going to be in this first deck, because I have enough to make 2 more decks, I could do 3 different decks. So when I was told that these are the mushrooms in the first deck, I literally every day for 33 days, one at a time, sat and did soul sessions with each species.
Oh, wow.
So that, I mean, like so to sell the deck or try to get people, to be like, hey, dangle a carrot, it's like, that's not me. I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to sell the deck. Like, you're going to know, people know. And so what happens is I just have to show up. So like the forest, like I had to show up and walk in the forest every day, but then whatever's going to come from that's going to show up. So how do people find out about you and your work and your products or anything else? It's like, well, we have to show up so
Right.
people know us, so people can be like, hey, what's that? They can become curious. But really, that's it. Like, there's no manipulation. There's no, oh, let me put some pretty colors around it. Let me do this and that and make it brighter or shinier to really lure people in. No, it's spirit's working this. The mushrooms are doing the work. The forest is doing the work. Like this, I don't have to do the work. Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll definitely put the link in the comments because I know the holidays are coming back. The holidays are here, and I had received an oracle deck from a friend of mine like several years ago, and I think that was like my favorite Christmas gift. But I think what makes now knowing just that you spent that many days with even just one, and I guess that's why the messages that when you're reading them, how much more powerful they are. I love that. Absolutely love that. So thank you for taking the time. Thank the forest, showing gratitude for that. But and I know that you have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
where you do your nature walks, which I absolutely love those as
It's very,
well.
yeah, it's very eclectic. So it's funny because who I am and what I share in any moment, I don't compartmentalize it. So I'm a writer. I call myself a soul writer. And so,
Yeah.
I'll share my writing. I'll share different kind of self-help things to help people because I'm also a therapist. Um, I'm a nature lover and I go out to the forest every day and I love to take photos. And so I combine the love I have of everything. And so when you go to my YouTube, like you're gonna see different things, but if you keep going, like it's an eclectic journey. You're gonna get
Mhm.
me and all of that is within it. So you're gonna get therapy tools, you're gonna get stuff about the mushroom deck, you're gonna get poetry, you're gonna get different photographs and nature walks and yeah, all of that. And same with
Yes.
my Facebook and Instagram.
Yes. Well, we will post all of those links in the comments.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Yeah, actually, I felt called when we were just talking about the mushrooms and everything to just do a card reading. We'll do a card read for all of us that are
Yes.
tuning into this. Yeah. So there's 33 different cards, and then there's the booklet, and then there's the box. Yeah. So just allow yourself to feel the touch points. So whatever you're sitting on or lying down on, or whatever you're standing on, those touch points. So whatever you're touching. And notice that whatever you're touching is also touching you. And so that already starts to create this fluid exchange of reciprocity where the giver and the receiver become one because you are giving touch to these things, but you're also receiving touch from these things. And just like our breath and our heartbeat, and even like the seasons and the time of day, the sun and the moon cycles, life is working in this reciprocity. And what we call opposites in the duality are actually one. They complete each other. And the same is true for our emotional states, whether we have feelings of grief or hardship. And then you can also, with the other hand, you can also feel into what is the opposite of grief for you. And I never like to tell people what it is because it's different for all of us. So whatever grief feels like to one person, for them to say, what would be the opposite of grief? And so you could just tune into yourself and find out what that is. And then you can hold with your left and right hands, you can hold that duality. You can realize that they complete each other. They work together. They're partners. Like your inhale and your exhale, like your contraction of your heart and the expansiveness of the heart, that pulsing. And then we can bring our hands to our heart in unity and bring them all back home. So wherever there's duality, we don't have to be afraid of it and we can welcome it all to be here. And it's in that space that I feel called to draw the mushroom card for all of us. And so we're just connecting with the mycelium, underground, the unseen realm, as well as the sprouting fruit body of the mushrooms, that which you see above ground. Breathing and softening our bellies, softening our hearts and our minds, and asking for the message for all of us. So this is blue turkey tail. All the layers. And so I'll just read up. So it has the common name, and then it also has the scientific name. And then you can just open your heart to receiving the keywords and seeing where those land in your body and mind. So the keywords are feeling, thinking, layers, character, and nature. Whatever you are feeling is not only allowed, but valuable and part of your divine nature. I'll read that again, so that those are those big words, like I was mentioning about the word nothing. Whatever, right? So whatever, that means everything. Whatever you are feeling is not only allowed, but valuable and part of your divine nature. What you think is bad or simply unpleasant is just a layer among all the layers. Your layers make you adaptable and whole. For it is within these layers that you will know the nature of your true eternal self and the Akashic records of your soul. And then in the book is an extended message, which I won't read, but every mushroom has an affirmation, so I will read the affirmation. So you can just allow yourself to repeat in your mind after me. I honor all my layers, the seemingly pleasant and unpleasant. I know each layer carries within it a profound message from my soul. And just breathe that in for a moment. And with a glimpse of the mushroom medicine oracle from the forest to nature, to the nature that is you.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing this space. And as always, I'm so grateful for you and all that you do. And for our watchers and our listeners, we're going to post the link of her YouTube, your Oracle deck.
You know what, Gypsy? Why don't we can just post the link tree, because all of it's on the link tree.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, oh, well, there is a link tree, so we'll definitely just post all of that. So, but again, thank you so much for being here, and we will talk with you soon.